Thanks, man. Uh, you guys ready? Sit down, close the doors maybe so we can get some focus. Peter made some interesting points around there are people who can run Postgres better than you, there are people who can page better than you, there are people who can monitor better than you. And we have a really small crack-ass engineering organization, and we've had the nexus of our sort of development over the years is really doing things ourselves. So a lot of this presentation will be an interesting contrast to what Peter was talking about relative to relying on other services. I joined Pandora in 2004. We had about 5 engineers, and we've slowly, methodically built the team from there. There was no radio product at that time. There was the genome, which we used to seed stations and to create playlists. But generally, the the organization is small, tight, and we always sort of figured we could roll our own. Tom Conrad, my boss, actually worked with Lou CERN, I think, over 10 or 15 years ago. And Lou came in when it was himself and 2 other engineers to demo the product for us. And we looked at it, and it was amazing. We'd already started sort of growing our own monitoring systems. And we asked about pricing, and given the way our royalties work and the way our financial model works, we're pretty tight. And so we thought to ourselves, we would just continue to roll our own. But it's amazing to see what this product and organization has become. Obviously, there's a lot of enthusiasm. The people I was talking to in the green room prior to this are just incredibly enthusiastic. So what I want to talk today about is really about how we built this engineering organization, the sort of traits to it that have made us successful. I should put lean in quotes because this isn't lean engineering by any strict Google search definition that you may know. It's just something I like to call and call out our organization for how we do things. My passion, just a little bit about myself, my background is mostly in enterprise software, and most of the engineers we hired early on come from the enterprise software background, not the consumer space. Yeah, so that's just an important detail as to relative to how we grew. And myself, my passion is really around building product and getting teams to function well together and effectively. What I'm trying to impart today are really around 4 things that we've done to build the team. First thing being hire people that you really want to work with that are smarter than you are. Keep your engineers challenged. Keep the people in your organization challenged with anything you can. We encourage everybody at Pandora to own whatever it is they're building, whether it be a back-end feature or a front-end feature or a playlist recommendation or an analyst or a report for advertising. And lastly, we expect that you will only sort of release the software or feature that you're most absolutely proud of. So I'm going to start with a little bit about Pandora. We and the organization I manage. The engineering group today manages all aspects of the service, so everything we've done with automotive in the CE space. We are actually on a refrigerator that plays Pandora as a Samsung connected refrigerator. Yeah, and I think it has a few hundred users. And we've done a lot with HTML5 relative to the gaming space, and then launched that on Sony last week. We're also managing, obviously, the website, analytics, and other things. Our organization is is sort of separated into disciplines. So we're organizationally structured around our disciplines and what people bring experience-wise and expert-wise to the product and the software engineering discipline. We have people focused on data science relative to the recommendations, obviously, the playlists. We have people focused on data science relative to growth and retention. We have data science people focused on advertising relative to interactions and yield and delivery. Another emerging discipline for all of us in almost any space now, as is illustrated by our awesome badges, is the mobile space. And so we're developing a lot of muscles, I would say, around how to regularly release software to tens of millions of listeners on the mobile devices. We have people focused on the platform, and I would call the platform for us is really about the proliferation of the service, the ubiquity of the service across CE and automotive, and any other place we can really sort of garner listening. We have people focused on scale, relative to storage, relative to media serving, and relative to just scaling whatever transactional stuff we're working through. And then lastly, we have people focused on analytics. We have various analysts all throughout the company who are busy running metrics and measuring, and we have a group that supports them within engineering. And then the way we focused our efforts is really around sort of in a matrixed way across various initiatives. One focused on playlists, obviously, a group focused on listening, and these groups can, or in many cases, contain engineers throughout the different disciplines. Listeners, monetization relative to advertising, automotive CE, and then growth. We've grown rather organically over the years and have more recently put a more concerted effort into user retention and growth. And then a little bit more about Pandora as a service and sort of our scale. We have a little over 70 million monthly actives. On the platform today is over 1,000 CE devices. I think we're second to Netflix in that regard. And we're integrated with over 100 2013 car models. And what that means today, anyways, is connectivity through the phone controls in your dashboard. So you put your phone down, either Bluetooth or 30-pin, you're connected to Pandora. Our users have created over 5 billion stations, and they've given us over 30 billion rows of feedback, which we use analytically as well as transactionally for playlist recommendations. A little bit about our listeners. We have our human listeners anyways. They listen to on average 18 hours a month, almost 18 hours a month. They listen to almost 3 genres a month, 3 completely distinct genres, which is probably quite different than broadcast. And they listen on average 1.6 devices, different devices, so they're listening on more than one platform in most cases. And then a little more about the systems that support those. Those systems streamed over 1.36 billion hours in September. We peaked out at 258 gigs per second in September, and we do that with approximately 13 different codec bitrate combinations, so those numbers aren't easy you can't back from one into the other without knowing the ratios. And we do that with about 1,400 servers, 1,000 of which are in production. We have our own CDN that we've built over the years. We don't really use the cloud for anything except maybe some financial tools. But as far as the production service, everything's hosted. Everything's on our facilities or in rented facilities. Of the other 1,000 servers, probably 300 or so that are responsible for streaming audio, that 250 gig number. So they average near a gig apiece across our entire library. So that's the library transcoded in 13 different ways. And then we're streaming music from 100,000 artists. A little more history. We have 70 million uniques today. We started in 2009 with like 15. If you pick this, and then I'm going to show you the size of the engineering organization. If you pick just in the middle of 2011, we had over 30 million monthly actives, and we had 29 engineers across the platform. So that's like 1 engineer for iOS, 1 engineer for Android, 1 engineer for automotive, and things like that. So we have this pretty small crack-ass team that's done an amazing job maintaining the service. We have this kind of amazing statistic that I think is better than most cloud services out there today, particularly the ones that you pay to store your data or process. We've had over 4 nines of uptime. And I think those things I mentioned in the beginning, and I'm going to go further into, sort of illustrate how we did that. Means we've had less than 53 minutes of unplanned downtime. And in 8 years, we've never had planned downtime. So we've never brought the thing off intentionally. We prioritize listening over everything else, so that as long as the music streams, the users will be happy, we'll be happy. But relative to that, we're looking at less than an hour a year of downtime. So the engineering team we've assembled, it's a humble group. We don't get out there a lot. You won't hear us talking a lot about what we're doing. We're pretty much laser focused on keeping the service going, keeping the listeners happy, keeping the monetization strategies going so we can maintain or get to, depending on your perspective, profitability. We feel like we have a really smart bunch, capable bunch. We have a very communicative and collaborative environment. It's not competitive. We have this incredible retention rate. We've retained probably over 99% of our engineers from 2004. So I think we're on to something relative to that. Also, kind of, you'll hear these words a lot, but it's an incredibly responsible and accountable group without really any oversight from me or anybody else. We have an incredibly flat organization, as flat as we can possibly make it. We have 2 titles at Pandora, senior and not senior. We have senior scientists and not senior scientists. We have senior engineers and not senior engineers, and same for QA. We don't have architects. We're not excited about architects. We want ideas and decisions to bubble up from the group. We want the group to make decisions about what future we may have or what difficult decisions we may have. We don't want somebody to have ownership of that decision or authority over that decision just based on a title or just based on some experience they had that got them that title. We have plenty of people at Pandora who have had architect titles, and we ask them as part of our process to relinquish that as they move into Pandora, really more focused on what people do, not what their title is. It makes for a pretty empowering organization and environment. People are really happy to engage with each other, and it's normalized, completely normalized. And as you walk through the office, you can feel that vibe. Some principles, we think about quality first. I think that as things are going so fast, it's really hard to prioritize that. And as you have many stakeholders throughout your company and your sales organization, it's difficult to prioritize quality, but we really hold that bar high. We have this slogan, which was a joke for a long time, but maintains true for us today, which is really about under-promising and deliver, as opposed to under-promising and over-delivering. Often when you over-deliver, you find yourself in a situation where you miss your dates, you're buggier than you should be, so we really try to set out to solve the smallest problem we can solve, deliver it on a schedule that we define, and then repeat. We build just what we need, we build it well, so that's sort of an agile principle along the same lines of under-promising, but really trying to identify the problem set, whatever it may be, whether it's advertising, listening, or a platform. And then we encourage everybody to own their work. And that's not really about code ownership. It's more about whatever it is you're assigned to at that moment, own it all the way through production. Every engineer is on an on-call duty, so they have a duty to make sure that happens. It's not an environment where we're passing things along. It's an environment where there's a team that's all responsible. Our work style. It's a little bit cliche to say have fun, but we want people who want to be there. We want people to have fun. We want them to like their job. We want them to be challenged. We communicate to each other often. It's incredibly open. at least within our small group. We really try to minimize meetings, and we try to be direct and encourage directness amongst the engineers and the management. And lastly, it's very common, but all that said, we encourage people to put themselves in risky situations, which means they might make mistakes, they might be off schedule. We encourage people to raise those issues as they come up. And then just to go back through a little bit about how we, so what are the things I think we did that created this, this sort of environment and success, seemingly success. You're a better judge of that than I am. Hire people that you want to work with that are smarter than you, which maybe seems impossible in all cases, but we will gladly look away from a candidate even if they're incredibly smart, but we maybe don't want to work with them. We've sent many people away for that reason, and obviously for the other. Our hiring is really about looking for people who are intelligent and bring a level of smarts to the situation. We're not about puzzles. I can pretty confidently say that I don't think we've asked a single puzzle question in 9 years. And Google has affirmed this a few months ago when they announced that they did some analysis and that puzzle questions only serve to make the interviewer feel intelligent. It took them quite a while to get to that conclusion. But anyway, so we interview for intelligence about what you know, not about whether you can figure out how many gallons of water there are in the bay. We interview for fit, so the common term is cultural fit, but really the fit within the group you're interviewing for, and how you're getting your communication style, and how you think about your peers, and how you work with people. We're not interested in hiring people who are going to come and bump their chest every time they write a new feature or release a piece of software. We're a much more collaborative environment than competitive. I think I've said a lot to that point, but it's really about encouraging people to work together. We feel like we look for experts and not experience. I find it a little exhausting to say, even with our own recruiters who really like to tout company names in resumes, and we don't really care where you worked. We care what you worked on, how you treated it, how whatever your responsibility was, how you successfully managed that, and I find a lot of what people talk about when they're talking about the people they work with today is this person worked at exponential growth company Y, this person worked at exponential growth company Z, and it's more important to talk about what that person's done at the organization and how they were involved and what their exact accomplishments were. And I think that goes a lot back to our sort of tenet of humility. We try really hard to challenge folks. I think that has lent itself to the retention quite a bit. People can get bored. Engineers always want to learn. It's a creative process, and if you're not given an opportunity to sort of expand those skills and stretch them, then people will move on for that reason or others. So we really look for ways, assuming the organization can support it, ways to challenge engineers. So ways you can do that are obvious to some, maybe not all, but new languages. So if somebody comes in as a Java programmer, they've been working in Java for 15 years and they want to learn Python, we'll try to figure out a way to support that. If people are interested, a lot of people are interested in mobile development today. A lot of Java programmers are interested in Android development. So we find ways to support that. We have lots of interesting problems around scale. I think what we're doing with the amount of servers we're doing it with is pretty impressive, and it's no small feat that a lot of thought went into that. And so we have a lot of interesting challenges there that we can present people. There's obviously new technologies, things like the Chromecast integration we've been working on, new platforms so that's all relative to the second screen experience, right? People are really interested in the new technologies being developed in the home relative to that. And then there's always new shiny projects. Every company has new shiny projects that can sometimes be used as a reward or a challenge for people who are maybe getting a little bored in their role. So we're constantly moving people around the organization. The person that wrote our initial WebOS app, yes, we were on the WebOS, now manages the analytics team. He also wrote the initial version of the Android app in, I think it was 2008. Own what you produce. We expect people to own whatever it is they're working on. That could be own it through by following up with listeners or through monitoring. We have our own very rudimentary monitoring system we use. We expect people to, I should explain this. Things turn red when they're bad and the whole thing, the rows expand. We couldn't figure out how to put everything on one page, so that was our little UI invention. It looks like an old Relic compared to other things that are available, but it works for us. So we encourage people to take care of their own monitoring, understand how paging might have to be implemented, and educating their peers should they not be the one on call. We expect people to follow up in whatever way they can on end user features relative to listeners. We have lots of avenues. We actually have a listener support organization. There's obviously social media. Twitter's great for that sort of thing right now. But the idea is follow up until that thing is really settled. Again, we're not trying to set it up so that the engineer just gets the thing to feature complete and passes it off to QA, who passes it off to some ops group, or in some cases, listener support. And the last thing is really about owning the work, not owning the work, sorry. Releasing what you're proud of. We're not about releasing crap as a company, so we want that to be ingrained in every engineer. If the interactions aren't right, we'll take the time to fix them. If the pixels aren't right, we'll take the time to fix them regardless of schedules, regardless of what the business might depend on us. So if you can set an environment up where you do deliver on time most of the time, and you're pretty strict about your quality, you can afford yourself a lot of latitude in the area of releases and schedule and changes to that. That is to say that we're not always releasing everything pixel perfect, but that's our new icon. But the point is to really think hard about this stuff and make hard decisions about what we are releasing. So to close, hire people you're excited to work with that are smarter than you are. It's an ideal goal, but one that I think is possible. I'm sure that most of the team is smarter than I am. We try to challenge them. We try to move people around. Own what you produce, and only release work you're proud of. And that's what I got.